guys, so after nearly a year of trying to get this movie done, mainly because of Warrior Cat Fan Cole never being able to film, I finally got the James Bond movie done. And I figured, it's only 27 minutes, so it's a little disappointing, but it's okay. It's a pretty decent movie I've accomplished making. It's done, and it's going to be released at the end of February. And I figured, while waiting for that movie to be released, how about I do a Bondathon and review every single James Bond movie? And I thought, you know what, let's do it. But I want to get it done in under a month, so how the hell am I going to do that? Well, the answer is simple. You don't. So instead of reviewing every single film under a month, I'm going to be reviewing the era that the actor was in. So basically, I'll be reviewing this video, Dr. No from Russia with Love, Thunderball, or Goldfinger, Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice. And so, yeah, this is going to be a series of reviews. I'm going to be doing top 10s after that, and be ranking every single James Bond film. And so, yeah, I mean, I think this will be fun because I've always been a huge fan of James Bond. I've always wanted to express how much I love this series. And, so today we're going to be reviewing every single film. So, let's jump right into Dr. No. Dr. No isn't the first James Bond film. It's actually the first one. It was made in 1954. It was a made-for-TV program, and it was called Casino Royale, based on Ian Fleming's book. But that wasn't a true James Bond film. The first true James Bond film we ever got was in 1962, and it was called, well, Dr. No. I love this film. I think this movie hasn't aged the best, and it isn't one of my real favorites. I mean, not in my top 10. But this movie is just, it's a fun movie. It's got a great performance by Sean Connery. And something that a lot of people were doubting was, can Connery be good? He's not a celebrity or anything. Ian Fleming doubted him. But he shattered all expectations and went beyond them and proved that he was the best James Bond. So much that Ian Fleming actually wrote that James Bond had a Scottish background like Connery did in the book On Her Majesty's Secret Service. There are a lot of things to like about this film. Connery, like I said, was the perfect James Bond. He still is. It's not a corny movie either. It's got a great cast, but unlike what the series would become before, this movie has more realistic action, plays out more like a regular espionage thriller, and it's got a car chasing regular cars. And there was a lot of stuff like that that made you feel more invested in the story, because Bond is not a superhero in this movie, and you really think that it's a challenge for him to find out about this Dr. No and this whole thing about Spectre. Honey Rider is a great Bond girl. She's one of my favorites. She's played by Ursula Andress. And what I like so much is that it appeals to all ages, basically, while still being a good spy thriller, because kids can enjoy some of the action sequences, mostly at 1962, but men, still like Ursula Andress in her bathing suit and, all the action stuff. It's good. It's a good movie for everybody. And I mostly love the ending because it's just, it leaves you very satisfied to know that this will come on and make more great films for the world, and it shows that, James Bond is going to be awesome later, and this was the start, so I'm not sure if you really get what I'm saying, but yeah, that's why I love the ending so much. It's awesome. The movie was a hit. It made back its budget and more, which was rather low, and a lot of these stars became household names, not overnight, but were slowly gaining fame, and Connery, now, thankfully, became a huge star, because now Connery's my all-time favorite actor, and luckily they got a bigger budget thanks to the big hit of Dr. No. And so we got one of my favorite films from Russia with Love. This just isn't just one of my favorite James Bond films. This is one of my favorite films. I love this movie. The action is better than Dr. No's. It has more of it as well, but it also still had a good espionage story, and possibly the most interesting. What Dr. No introduced in the first film was Spectre, and it returns here and makes an even greater impact. Now, this is a follow-up to Dr. No because it mentions the character Dr. No, but you don't have to see Dr. No to understand what's going on in this film. Unlike another James Bond film, but this movie had a great sidekick, or henchman, in Robert Shaw as Red Grant, who you might know him as Quint from Jaws. He did so good in this movie that he influenced what the henchman should look like. The big blonde guy who beats the crap out of everybody. But unlike those henchmen that he influenced, this guy has personality. It shows Robert Shaw's acting abilities very well. And they have what is quite possibly the best fight scene in any James Bond film ever. Inside the train. And it's just awesome. And Red Grant's awesome. We also meet Q, who's played by Desmond Llewellyn, and he went on to be in 17 James Bond films. Yeah, 17. And he introduced one of my favorite gadgets, this briefcase. Because the briefcase, yeah, it's a gadget, but it's not a corny gadget. It's still pretty believable. So yeah, From Russia with Love has great action sequences, great characters, a great Bond girl, another awesome performance by Sean Connery, some great villains. We get introduced to Ernst Stavro Blofeld, who is, you can't make fun of him in this film because he doesn't look like Dr. Evil because you don't see his face, and it makes him more scary. So yeah, From Russia with Love is one of my favorites. This is one you've probably heard of, Goldfinger. This is another one of my all-time favorite films with another awesome performance by Sean Connery. But this introduced the Bond formula. You know, getting attacked by lasers, gadget-filled cars, Bond girls with perverted names, a villain and an over-the-top henchman that you nearly can't defeat. And a premise that just has been repeated, but it's never been as good as it was here. It introduced one of my all-time favorite cars, the Aston Martin DB5, and it made Q's appearance like pretty significant part of the films. Goldfinger has one of the most riveting finales of the series, him fighting Oddjob, the short Chinese guy who has a hat that can chop off heads. It's got one of my favorite car chases with the Aston Martin DB5. It's the first gadget-filled car chase. And it's got awesome lines from Goldfinger, one of my all-time favorite villains. You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. It's just great lines, great action. It looks more real this time. And Goldfinger, there's one movie called the Ultimate Bond film. It's this one. This is objectively the best James Bond film, and even though you can argue it's campy, it's really not because it doesn't take itself so seriously like other installments do. It did influence campier installments, but this one is just perfect. Connery's next film was pretty awesome too, and probably the last one of Connery's films to be really awesome. Thunderball is one of my favorites again. It's got an awesome Bond girl, a pretty decent villain, and another great performance by Sean Connery. It's got some memorable moments, like the jetpack scene in the opening teaser. It's pretty cool. This movie has some great action, and there's a lot of it, and maybe even more so than Goldfinger. And, yeah, some people complain about the underwater sequences. They don't really bother me, but if you don't like them, it's easy to understand. They get a little slow at times, but that just, I don't know, it didn't bother me. I thought they were very well shot and very cool looking. I don't know, they just didn't bother me. Some people don't like it, though. Now, when I talk about great Bond girl, I'm not talking about Domino, I'm actually talking about Fiona, played by Luciana Paluzzi. She is hot, she has some great moments in the film, and she's just an overall great character. She's my favorite character in the film, and she's probably my favorite thing about this film, other than the underwater action scenes. Okay, I'm kidding, but yeah, she was great. Thunderball is awesome. I'd recommend the first 4 films for sure, no doubt in my mind. So, other than Goldfinger, Connery's first 5 films were all about Spectre. And From Russia with Love and Thunderball, you didn't see his face, but you saw the cat and stuff. In this one, he was revealed to be played by Donald Pleasance, one of my favorite actors. And You Only Live Twice is a pretty good one. Not as good as the first 4, but definitely a really great installment. It's got some great action set pieces by Ken Adam. All of his set pieces are great, but this one's the ultimate Bond film as far as set pieces, for sure. And while the action, the spectacle, and everything is great, Connery doesn't look like he's enjoying himself as much, mainly because of stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And the movie is getting to a height of camp where it needed to redeem itself and be, go to the more espionage tales created by Ian Fleming. It's a battle cry you'll hear a lot. And after Connery finished this film, he said he would never come back. We know he did, but yeah, this was a good one, but, It's also pretty noteworthy that Connery's first 5 films are all in order. But, yeah, so that's my review of the Connery era, probably my favorite era of James Bond films ever. I really hope you enjoyed this video, because next time we'll be talking about the return of Connery and the one film without him on Her Majesty's Secret Service.